There is a strange moment that sometimes happens on very hard days when the mind suddenly drifts to something small and ordinary, and it feels almost wrong to notice it because the day itself feels heavy and serious. That moment can feel like a mistake or a distraction, but it may actually be the most honest signal of how the human mind protects itself and opens a quiet door to meaning. On days filled with pressure, deadlines, conflict, and fear, the mind often looks for something simple, not to escape but to stabilize itself. A street, a sound, a shape, an object that has no demands. This is not weakness. This is awareness trying to breathe. We often think that growth comes from pushing harder, focusing tighter, and controlling thoughts more strictly. But there is another path that moves in the opposite direction. It begins with noticing what is already working quietly around us. The deeper idea behind this talk is not about feeling good or being positive. It is about how attention shapes experience before judgment even begins. Appreciation is not a reaction. It is a lens. It happens before opinions form. It happens before stories take over. It is the mind pausing long enough to see something as it is without needing it to serve a purpose. When life feels overwhelming, we assume we need answers or solutions. But very often what we actually need is orientation. Appreciation gives that orientation by reminding us that the world is larger than our current stress. The surface idea seems simple. Notice good things. Value them. But the hidden layer is more subtle. Appreciation changes the order of thinking. Most people experience first, judge, later notice. Appreciation flips that order. It notices first and judges later, or sometimes not at all. This shift matters because judgment is fast and loud while noticing is slow and quiet. When noticing comes first, the nervous system settles. The body softens. The mind stops scanning for threats. Think about walking into a meeting already tense. If the first thing you notice is a person you dislike, your body tightens more. But if before that you notice the light in the room, the sound of chairs, the fact that people showed up at all, the tone inside you changes slightly. That small shift affects how you listen, how you speak, and how others respond to you. Appreciation works at this level. Not by denying difficulty but by widening the frame around it. There is also a hidden assumption many people carry that appreciation is earned only after things go well. That it is a reward emotion. You finish something, then you appreciate it. Someone helps you, then you feel grateful. But appreciation does not need an exchange. It does not wait for success or kindness. It is available even in unfinished moments. Even in failure. Even in confusion. That is why it is so powerful. It is not fragile. It does not disappear when plans fall apart. You can appreciate effort even when results are poor. You can appreciate clarity even when the answer is no. You can appreciate structure even when you disagree with it. This is very different from pretending things are fine. It is about respecting reality as it is. Over time, this builds a pattern. The structural pattern is that appreciation trains the mind to look for systems instead of insults. Instead of asking why is this happening to me, it asks how does this work? That question alone reduces suffering. When you see systems, you stop personalizing everything. A traffic jam becomes a flow problem, not a personal attack. A rude email becomes a stress signal, not a character verdict. A rainy week becomes a cycle, not a punishment. This does not make problems disappear, but it makes them workable. People who practice appreciation regularly are not calmer because life is easier. Life is not easier. They are calmer because their mind is less busy fighting what already exists. They save energy. That energy then shows up as patience, curiosity, and sometimes even creativity. This is why appreciation can feel like fuel. It does not excite. It steadies. Think about how often we ignore the tools that quietly support us. Electricity, clean water, transportation schedules, shared rules. We rarely thank them because they are stable. Stability fades into the background. Appreciation brings it back into view. Not to praise it endlessly but to remember that support exists. This matters especially during uncertainty. When the future feels unstable, the present becomes the only ground. Appreciation anchors us there. It says this is here now. This works now. I am supported now. Even if tomorrow is unclear. In daily life, this can be practiced in very small ways. While making coffee, notice the sound of the machine doing exactly what it was designed to do. While opening a door, notice how many hands and decisions existed before that door ever reached you. While waiting in line, notice that waiting means order exists. Order means predictability. Predictability means safety. None of this removes annoyance, but it softens it. Appreciation does not ask you to like everything. It asks you to understand more than you judge. This is especially important with people. When someone behaves in a way that irritates us, the mind quickly builds a story. They are careless. They are selfish. They are difficult. Appreciation interrupts that story by asking a harder question. What conditions shaped this person before this moment? This question has no clean answer. That is the point. Because once you admit you cannot fully know another life, your certainty loosens. That loosening creates space. In that space, you respond instead of react. You might still set boundaries. You might still disagree. But you are less likely to dehumanize. Over time, this changes relationships. People feel safer around those who try to understand before judging. Safety builds trust. Trust builds influence. This is not manipulation. It is respect in action. Appreciation also reframes ambition. Many people think that noticing small things will make them less driven. The opposite is often true. When you appreciate progress instead of only outcomes, effort feels meaningful. You are more likely to continue. Burnout often comes not from working too hard but from feeling unseen even by yourself. Appreciation sees effort. It says this mattered even if it was not perfect. That voice keeps people moving. It is quiet but steady. There is also an optional deeper layer here. Appreciation is not only about external things. It can be directed inward. Not as praise but as recognition. Recognizing your own limits, recognizing your own learning, recognizing your own persistence. This is not ego. It is accuracy. When you appreciate what your body, mind, and time are actually doing, you stop demanding impossible standards. You still grow but without constant self-attack. This inner appreciation often changes how people show up in the world. They become less defensive. Less rushed. More available. They listen better. They rest better. They decide better. None of this is dramatic. It is subtle. And because it is subtle, it lasts. Over time, appreciation becomes less of a practice and more of a default setting. You do not force it. You notice that your attention naturally rests on what is functioning instead of what is broken. Problems still appear. But they no longer define the entire landscape. This is the quiet promise of appreciation. Not happiness as excitement but contentment as stability. Not optimism as denial but realism with warmth. When many people adopt this lens, the collective effect is real. Conversations slow down. Conflicts de-escalate faster. Differences become interesting instead of threatening. This does not solve every problem. But it changes how problems are approached. It changes the tone of effort. It makes cooperation possible where it once felt exhausting. In a world that constantly pulls attention toward outrage, urgency, and fear, appreciation acts like a counterweight. It does not shout. It does not compete. It simply stays. It reminds us that even now something is working. Something is holding. Something is worth noticing. And once you begin to see the world this way, it becomes harder to unsee it. The question then is not whether appreciation works but whether we are willing to practice it when it feels least convenient. So what small ordinary thing could you notice today that might quietly change how the rest of your day unfolds?